You're watching Camnet TV, not just another channel, and welcome to our news. The headlines. Zambia Medical Association spits venom over UT8 patient doctor scandal. Community schools cry foul over TCZ teacher licensing measures. Petauke District Commissioner Valenasi Moyo differs with media bodies. And in international news, COVID-19 vaccine raised safety concerns as countries rush for cure. And in sports news, veteran soccer fan questions FAR's over stadia development in Western Province. For the details, join me shortly after this break.
Msika is here. We have you all covered with just 150 kwacha. You can advertise every day from 17 hours to 18 hours. For a 30-second ad, get the benefit of selling your products and services on Msika. For more details, call our marketing department on +260 953 995099 +260 962 444-726 or +260 971 177 467. Email us on info@camnettvafrica.com. Terms and conditions apply.
With the details, my name is Liseli Kanyanga Mubanga. The Zambia Medical Association has instituted an investigation into the matter where an alleged patient at the University Teaching Hospital UTH was recorded harassing medical doctors. ZMA Secretary General Dr. Masiku Piri says once the investigations are done and facts are ascertained, the aggressor will be punished to set an example. Dr. Masiku is hopeful that a criminal case will be opened against the oppressor, adding that the situation happened in full view of the police among other witnesses. ZMA is reacting to a video that is circulating on social media where a suspected patient was threatening the medical doctors for not attending to his situation in time. We have more in this report.
Just like the police service, medical practitioners fall in the line of an appreciated workforce. This is according to the public, who barely appreciates what they do to ensure that people stay healthy. Yesterday, a patient at the University Teaching Hospital provoked the medical doctors for alleged delaying to read his X-ray report. The unidentified man verbally abused the doctors, accusing them of stealing government resources in the name of salaries while failing to attend the patients. This is what happened.
I'm a patient. I have to do a veterinarian. Then I will go. So with due respect, I know you are senior than me and I'm teaching, but you are also the health matters. Hey, give my exit. Give my exit. Can you give my exit? If you are a patient, can you give no? It's now supporting that. How are we going to attend to the accident? If you are a patient, you have to be. How can you go to a doctor? With due respect, you know that's what you are. How can you do you see the problem? To I mean, you can't find it. Can you see
This verbal abuse has angered the Medical Association of Zambia, who have clearly stated their position on this matter. ZMA Secretary General Dr. Masiku Piri says the oppressor will be punished once found wanting.
Going forward, the Zambia Medical Association has since launched its own investigation into the matter at hand in order to establish the facts. In the meantime, we would like to reassure the victims that should the alleged offender be found wanting, Zambia Medical Association will use all its available resources to make an example out of him by exhausting all legal channels, while ZMA bearing all the costs. Additionally, we are aware that there has been presence of police officers at the scene with multiple witnesses, and so we are hopeful as an association that the criminal case has been opened against the aggressor. We will indeed keep the public as well as the membership abreast with the development of this matter.
ZMA says at the time, while medical doctors are going an extra mile in trying to save the lives of the people during the COVID-19 period, it is disappointing to see people abuse them. 40 doctors so far have, in the process of saving lives, contracted the COVID-19.
We are deep in the mud fighting the COVID-19 pandemic at a time when 40 or so doctors have been with the disease and been quarantined. Others even are out. Indeed, at a time when doctors are battling depression and mental illness because of what they have witnessed at the battlefront in the war against coronavirus, at a time when healthcare workers have been working tirelessly since the outbreak began in March without any incentives and compensation, the last thing we would expect is the verbal abuse at the hands of the public. And while negotiations continue in the background to find amicable ways of motivating frontline workers, who are at this stage of the pandemic means all healthcare workers, we would like to remind the government that the patience they exhibit is not in perpetuity, and we call upon the authorities to expedite the incentives as were directed by His Excellency Dr. Edgar Chagolungu.
Sharon Kalimbula, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Education being a basic right, well-wishers have in many places started community schools which mostly operate with untrained teachers and pupils barely paying a dime. With the coming of the Teaching Council of Zambia on board, it has become difficult for these schools to freely operate owing to the fact that most teachers are untrained. On Friday, a community school in Lusaka's Maziopa area asked the Teaching Council of Zambia to revisit its decision of persecuting teachers who are not certified by the council. Mr. Frank Kaonga, the patron of the school, has told Camnet TV News that community schools not only provide education but give a chance to volunteer teachers to gain the experience and be able to sustain themselves. We have more in this report.
Brackets. Clap for him.
They say education is the key to success. Well, some community schools in Zambia are really trying to ensure that that key is given to the vulnerable children. This is Maziopa Community School, situated in Maziopa area of Lusaka province. The school accommodates 724 students who are vulnerable. Many community schools in Zambia suffer a number of challenges such as lack of good infrastructure, well-trained teachers and support from government. One would wonder just how possible it is to find such a school with poor infrastructure, with pupils learning in dilapidated buildings right in the heart of Zambia's capital city, Lusaka. This is Frank Kaonga, the founder of the community school.
Used to eat. Not only that, with this pandemic diseases, as you know, most of these teachers, some of them, they finished grade 12. They don't have money, even to get their certificates where they were. Not only that, also, our aim is to put them busy. Rather than someone completed school, grade 12 or colleges, is there to involve in abuse things or drug abuse.
It is encouraging to see a few individuals striving to ensure others access education despite the challenges they are facing, such as lack of salaries. Livia Mpandela, a teacher at this school, tells Camnet TV she hopes the Ministry of General Education looks at the plight of community schools in Zambia.
Here I do service training. I'm a voluntary teacher, kind of like. Yes, I teach grade 7s, I teach grade 9s. So we go through some of the challenges. We have financial challenges mostly, and sometimes we find that we fail to buy chokes. We fail to buy chokes due to finances, because not everyone, considering that the community and where we are, it's a kind of a challenge for the parents to contribute. Yes, so we want to buy chalks, and also sometimes we are even having troubles desks where kids can sit.
This school also gives accommodation to students in examination classes such as grade 7s, 9 and 12. As you can see, this is where they lay their heads. However, food is a problem.
You can see we need people to come in, but a child, how can he feed to this food, as you can see? So we need someone who can come up at least to help us. Or if us as teachers, even some of the children, they are big. If it's a piecework we can be doing during Saturdays, we are able to do that. Saturday we're able to do that piecework so that at least we buy the food for these children. Because my fellow servants, we are so geared to stand to help the government.
Frank Kaonga also touched on the issue of the Teaching Council of Zambia planning to prosecute teachers who are not certified by the council. He pleads they don't go ahead with this as it will adversely affect community schools because most of them are just volunteers. Despite all the challenges they face, they still find time to embrace the Zambian culture, which brings the best out of them. Constance Mwemba reporting for Camnet TV News, Lusaka.
Government says it will immediately start disinfecting markets on a daily basis in the wake of COVID-19. Local Government Permanent Secretary Bishop Ed Chomba says the measure is aimed at reducing cases of COVID-19, especially in markets where people flock and in and out at any given time. The PS was speaking at the COVID-19 daily update held by the Ministry of Health on Friday. We have more in this report.
With the advent of the coronavirus, the Ministry of Local Government has pledged to disinfect markets on a daily basis. Markets in Zambia are usually crowded, with marketeers having no regard to follow health guidelines. Local Government Permanent Secretary Bishop Ed Chomba, during a COVID-19 update held by the Ministry of Health, said the ministry will ensure markets are kept clean, crowdless and disinfected on a daily basis. Market masters have been directed to ensure no one without a mask is allowed to enter markets.
That's why you come in very clear to give us the guidelines of the way we need to do business. I've heard from my colleagues from your ministry, in particular Dr. Kabalu, who basically just said that if you don't mask up, you die. And we're hearing people are dying. And I do not understand why people want to politic when it is about, all our lives. So our greatest emphasis is to ensure that the markets become a very safe place to trade from. And the best way to go, Honorable Minister, is what you've already spoken and what the President has been emphasizing. We are going to upscale the intervention of sanitizing and making sure that the markets, become safe. How are we going to do that? There are two fronts to that. Number one, we make sure that the disinfecting of the markets is daily undertaken on daily basis, because some people have been thinking that when you sanitize or disinfect one place for just about an hour, then it is safe. We are told that the virus will stay on for a very longer period of time, sometimes up to a couple of days. So it becomes very important. So we'll make sure that we upscale the disinfecting of the marketplaces, as well as making sure that anybody who comes into the marketplace is masked up.
However, the Minister of Health announced in the last 24 hours the country has recorded 358 new cases countrywide out of 1,568 tests done, making Copperbelt and Northwestern Province hotspots for the coronavirus.
And I emphasize that the geographic spread has brought into the picture places that we have not seen before. Kalumbila, Mansavombwe, Chilavombwe, and Kalulushi are some of the cases where we are seeing new cases. We continue to emphasize that Copperbelt and Northwestern Province are hotspots, and we need to work extremely hard as communities, as the corporate world, as religious leaders, traditional leaders, to suppress this in order to protect the economic activities that are happening in those areas. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, today we are also joined by the SEG.
Constance Mwemba reporting for Camnet TV News, Lusaka.
A community leader in Munali constituency, Crispin Chinda, has called for personal willingness in masking up and general observance of COVID-19 health guidelines. Mr. Chinda says 750 kwacha penalty fee pegged for not wearing a mask can be avoided. Mr. Chinda, who is also Munali aspiring lawmaker, notes with sadness that people have relaxed the health guidelines with impunity even as the country continues to record high numbers of people testing positive for COVID-19. He explains that most people have masks but opt to carry them in their bags as opposed to wearing them. at free will. He has reminded people that life is precious, hence the need to abide by health guidelines such as masking up, social distancing and washing hands.
Our people in the community have put down their guard. They are not wearing masks. They can have their masks, but they'll put them either in the pockets, and when they want to enter in a shop, that's when they'll produce a mask. They can have it, but wear it wrongly. They'll put it on their neck. So all these things needs to come to a stop. I think sensitization must continue, and that the 750 is not something that we should worry about. It's something that can only, it's not a forcing matter that when you don't wear, but we need to follow these guidelines. The 750 is just a punitive measure that if you don't wear a mask which is worth 5 kwacha, you'll be punished, because when you get sick, you're going to spend more than 750. So there's no one who can measure how much your life is. So it's just, we don't need a captain to look after us or on our own health. The COVID-19 has killed a lot of people. So far, 200 people have died, and we have 3 prominent people that have died, 2 MPs and 1 DG for special branch that has died out of COVID-19. But we continue politicizing COVID-19, that in the community, people, even learned people, even just other people who are aware about the current affairs, they're telling our people, confusing our people, that coronavirus from Zambia, siriko, coronavirus, and government is using coronavirus just for their advantage. But these people that are dying, can we still continue saying that it's a joke? I think it's high time that we became serious in our communities. As a community leader, I'm doing my part also just to contribute and complement government effort. I've distributed free masks in the community.
Meanwhile, a veteran politician and member of OSIDA, William Harrington, has implored government to revise the 750 kwacha fine, describing it as outrageous and unreasonable. Mr. Harrington, however, says he supports government efforts in the fight against COVID-19, but there is need to be sensitive to the reality of the current economic status. Mr. Harrington says many Zambians live below the poverty line, which clearly shows that times are hard, making it impossible for one to pay 750 kwacha fine if found wanting.
The controversial 750 kwacha penalty imposed by the Patriotic Front government for anyone failing, neglecting or refusing to wear a mask as one of the measures to fight the coronavirus is outrageous and unreasonable. And I'm appealing to the Patriotic Front government that this fine be revised or adjusted downwards or scrapped altogether. Now, there is need for government to consider, as I've said, the downward adjustment because the harsh economic times the citizens are experiencing is a matter which should be seriously considered by government. Whilst government efforts to fight the spread of the coronavirus must be supported, we do support in principle, there is need for government to be sensitive to the reality of the harsh socio-economic circumstances that the people find themselves in today. Now, government should also come out clearly on how, for example, children will be expected to comply with the new regulations and the penalty, on how the regulations will apply to them. Or are they, the children, the youth, are they exempted from this regulation? If the masking regulations are to be strictly enforced, thousands of children will be caught in the police dragnet. How will authorities cope with a situation where they are simply not able to pay the penalty? So in supporting government efforts, in principle, the new measures have not been well considered, in my opinion.
The Health Professions Council of Zambia, HPCZ, has cautioned health training institutions against abrogating stipulated guidelines on the prevention of COVID-19. HPCZ Registrar and Chief Executive Officer Wembiabwalia says some health training institutions are reportedly disregarding guidelines such as restriction of gatherings to not more than 50 people, as well as guidelines to accommodate only students in final examination classes within the training premises. Mr. Walia said this when he took an impromptu visit to Zambia Royal Medical University in Lusaka, where he found more than 50 medical students seated in one classroom about to write examinations. He has instructed the university to immediately correct the situation. The HPCZ registrar and CEO was accompanied by his director corporate services, Mr. Innocent Kalola, and his public relations team.
It is great for us to come and tell you that there are more than 50 people in the whole class. So it's them that you're putting at risk. Do you have the interest of the students at heart if you can't adhere to the guidelines? That's not the conduct that we expect. First of all, you are the ones who are guiding the students. But if you yourself can't do the right thing, how do you expect them to go and respect the law when you go out there to practice? You are the coach guide. So you are not only teaching them, but you are demonstrating how to do things. But look at your demonstrations. Don't fight for us. Just do the right thing. And if you come in with force, then you think that the regulator is overdoing things. But if you have to break the law, even when you know it, you are doing that with impunity. And I think the necessary action should be taken against it. Because it did have to take HPCZ to come and count people, students. It has to take the HPCZ to come and count? No. That's not the way things are supposed to be done. So, correct the situation now. The rest you explain on paper why you are doing things this way.
We now take our first set of commercials. Do stay tuned as we have more interesting stories lined up for you.
I have used Oracle Pure Glycerin for 2 years now. It has really worked for me. It has cleared all the black spots on my face. It has restored my skin beauty. It also smoothens the skin. Try Oracle Pure Glycerin for perfect skin. If it's not Oracle Glycerin, then it's not pure glycerin.
Stay home, stay safe. Times have changed. With the advent of the coronavirus, Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company would like to advise its esteemed customers to avoid visiting crowded places. You don't have to move to pay your water bill. You can do it in the convenience of your home. You can pay your water bills through Zanaco Zapit, Stanbic Bank, Standard Chartered Bank, and FNB. You can also use Airtel, MTN, and Zamtel Kwacha mobile money transfer services. For any inquiries to report a fault, please contact our customer service on +260 211 251 571, +260 975 618 618, and toll-free line 5957, Zamtel only. You can also simply email customerservice@lwsc.com. This public announcement is brought to you by the Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company. Water is life. Sanitation is health.
You're watching Camnet TV News. Thank you so much for staying with us. We continue. MISA Zambia has described the closure by order of PASME radio station for hosting the opposition UPND by Petauke District Commissioner Velenasi Moyo as a senseless act and an infringement to democracy. Reports indicate that the Petauke District Commissioner, Ms. Moyo, went to PASME FM Thursday evening and stopped the broadcast of a paid-for recorded radio program featuring the United Party Party for National Development UPND. The district commissioner cited the lack of a police permit from the station before featuring any opposition political party on radio, and later called officers from the Zambia Police Service to close the station until further notice. In this regard, MISA chairperson Helen Mwale says the behavior of the DC is an infringement of freedom of expression and the role of the media, which is to educate, inform as well as entertain.
Political interference into the media space has continued to negatively affect the free and factual reportage, as some media houses that are scared of closure by influence opt to side with the ruling party. Pasme FM radio station in Eastern Province, Petauke District, becomes the latest closed under the orders of Petauke District Commissioner Velenasi. The station was yesterday hosting UPND on a paid-for program, prompting the DC to move in and order its closure. Matthews Banda is Pasme FM radio station manager.
We informed the police that we'll be running a program on air from 19 hours featuring UPND President, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. Everything went well until 1930. The District Commissioner for Petauke, Madam Verenas Moyo, stormed the radio station and demanded that we stop the program immediately. I tried to talk to her to say we cannot stop the program, but she demanded to say the program is illegal because we never got a police permit. She decided to call the police, came to the radio station, switched off all the equipment, and ordered everyone at the radio station in the evening to vacate the place. She said the radio station will never be on air again.
Meanwhile, MISA Zambia chapter, through their chairperson, Helen Mwale, has condemned this development, calling all civil servants to act within their mandate.
MISA Zambia finds this senseless act by the district commissioner not only primitive, but an assault and an affront to democracy and the right to citizens to fully express themselves through their freedom of expression, and hinders the ability for citizens to freely access information without intimidation whatsoever. The role of the media remains to educate, inform, as well as to entertain.
And the Zambia Institute of Independent Media Alliance ZIMA President Jaja Kulibali has called for the police to arrest the district commissioner.
As a media body that is thriving to promote media freedoms, we are shocked that civil servants under the current leadership go unpunished despite committing crimes. The latest ones being the Petauke District Commissioner and the Mwinilunga District Commissioner, who also blocked well-wishers from donating recently. So we want to remind the head of state that the continued uncouth behavior of his appointees will not stop until he cracks a whip. Failure to do so will cement our view that they have his blessings. We would also like to challenge the police command who have been making blanket statements on unprofessional cops to discipline the two officers who were used to close down a media house that was airing a paid-for radio program.
Media houses are regulated by the Independent Broadcasting Authority as outlined in the IBA Act, but one wonders the act civil servants use to oppress the media. Mafken Radio, Isoka Community Radio Station, Mochinga FM and Radio Chengelo are among the recently attacked radio stations by political party cadres for simply hosting opposition leaders. Sharon Kalimbula, Camnet News, Lusaka.
GEAR's Initiative Executive Director McDonald Chipenzi has expressed concern with the increasing political involvement in the civil service, especially among district commissioners. Mr. Chipenzi says it is clear civil servants are afraid of being fired, hence joining the bandwagon of political party cadres despite being civil servants. He has cited the recent behaviors of district commissioners Andrew Pandamuike and Kelly Kashiwa as vivid examples of how the civil service has been patronized and diluted with partisan politics and politicians. Mr. Chipenzi has therefore called for Mr. Pandamuike and Mr. Kashiwa to resign with immediate effect for their clear display of membership to the ruling party through their application to be considered for adoption for the vacant parliamentary seat of Lukasha.
We invite the DC of Kasama Mr. Kerika Kashiwa, and also the senior cameraman for ZNBC Kitwe Studios, Mr. Andrew Pandamwike, to read Article 186 of our Constitution, so that they appreciate that when they seek election, they have to resign as civil servants or public servants, public officers. So it is not in the right spirit of the Constitution for them to continue holding on as public servants or public officers when the law does not allow any public officer who seek election to continue serving as such. And indeed, the continued stay of the two in their public office is an indictment that public service in Zambia has been made politicians and their officers political officers, because it's better that if you want to seek election, you resign, and if you are not adopted, you can go back.
The Southern Africa Center for Constructive Resolution of Disputes, SACODS, has welcomed reports of a peaceful settlement of the border dispute between the Republic of Zambia and the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC. SACOD Executive Director Boniface Chembe notes that Zambia has since independence practiced the foreign policy principle of good neighborliness, and this has contributed to the country being peaceful. Mr. Chembe says the border dispute between the two neighbors that has intensified created an environment of possible serious violence between the two neighbors. He says the peaceful border dispute between Zambia and DRC now offers a conducive environment through which both countries can focus on achieving mutual development goals and progress that is in the interest of both countries. Zambia and DRC, through the assistance of the Zambia Africa Development Community SADC mediation team, have managed to arrive at an amicable and peaceful solution on the border dispute.
SACOD takes note and welcomes reports of the peaceful settlement of the border dispute between the Republic of Zambia and the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC. Zambia, since independence, has practiced the foreign policy principle of good neighborliness, and this has contributed to the country being peaceful. The border dispute between the two countries that had heightened created an environment of possible serious violence between the two neighbors. We are happy that Zambia and the DRC, through the assistance of the Southern African Development Community SADC mediation team, have managed to arrive at an amicable and peaceful solution to the border dispute. Peace is the only ingredient that provides any country an opportunity to develop. The peaceful border dispute between Zambia and the DRC now offers a conducive environment through which both countries can focus on achieving mutual development goals and progress that is in the interest of both countries and their people.
Government has embarked on a program of helping families that were affected by heavy rains in Kawumana area of Mufulira district by rebuilding houses that were destroyed. Mufulira District Commissioner Mike Manda says government will not allow its people to suffer. Mr. Manda says government is committed to ensuring that people's lives are enhanced, as seen from the many other projects that government has embarked on. We have details in this report. Government has embarked on a plan to help Kawama residents in Mufulira district whose houses were destroyed by heavy rains during the 2019-2020 rainy season. The Patriotic Front government, under the leadership of President Edgar Lungu, has demonstrated its love for the people in the constituency by committing to providing building materials. Mufulira District Commissioner Mike Manda has called on the residents to support government to develop the country through infrastructure.
But whatever the that's why it's not done. Marika Luba for the shine. How? The thing is that you can mind area kutinganda nomba yaitafika badalalisha kwafu na badala kwa kindi kutina lesha kuna ile kuwanisha kuwanisha kulindi mfula yai kama kala Afrika mwasanga tu wafya kwa wekela kajero.
In response, affected families have expressed gratitude to the head of state and his government for coming to their rescue.
ukutira bengatkwata ukutukulira amayanda yapya ichi chonse tuletotela pacho babomba kai tuletotela necho babomba mukati akabuteko bwabo kwena ine ne Joyce Chimba ne Joyce Kabambo kwena ndetotela pacho bande kudishe nganda yalipya nomba ndetotela bazisi balilimbamo ba kansela machamani ba MP n'abandi afuirisha kwena n'abampera ikifulo inchendi apa kukula kairi balambulira n'enganda ndetotela apakutumusho ndetotela n'abalungu n'abainongo bwese bali kuntesha Yesu abaleta kulisho kuti lesa inga bapera kuti ukuteko bwinga ukutungulushi bwinga bo wakutunguluka ndipashi panga sashangi lesa abakwe kutonse.
For Camnet Television in Lusaka, Zambia, Namwenga Mwenga. UPND Chairman of Mines Percy Chanda has charged that Zambians are now living in fear because of the Patriotic Front PF due to what he terms as dictatorial tendencies and lack of meaningful dialogue. Mr. Chanda notes with sadness that PF is using threats to arrest people who seek transparency and accountability in the issuance of green national registration cards. Government, through the Ministry of Home Affairs, started the issuance of mobile national registration cards in some parts of the country. We have more in this report. The commencement of an exercise regarding the issuance of national registration cards in all parts of the country has sparked debate among Zambians. One of them is an allegation that the Patriotic Front government, through the Ministry of Home Affairs, has been issuing threats against citizens who are demanding transparency and accountability regarding their registration process. United Party for National Development Chairman of Mines, Percy Chanda, who suspects that PF could have something it is hiding, otherwise, why could it be verbally harassing citizens on this matter, questions the government why people are being treated like animals in a zoo. Mr. Chanda highlights similar incidences of harassment Zambians received when they tried to seek justice.
Of late, PF has been threatening people for demanding transparency and accountability in the issuance of national registration cards.
He has further urged government leaders to avoid hiding in the name of commissioning projects, charging that way Zambians are being put on the risk of COVID-19.
The PF regime has taken away freedom of speech and assembly from Zambians who are now living in fear. Each time Zambians want to engage government over any national issue, the PF regime responds with threats of arrests and breaking bonds.
However, efforts to get a comment from the PF officials and the Home Affairs Ministry proved futile by broadcast time as their phones went unanswered. Reporting for Camnet Television in Lusaka, Zambia, Namwenga Mwenga. Also commenting on the matter, the Young African Leaders Initiative resident Andrew Ntewewe says political players should desist politicizing developmental matters. Mr. Ntewewe says the public should commend the Ministry of Home Affairs for embarking on the issuance of NRCs countrywide, adding that it was senseless for people to attack government on matters of national importance. The controversial mobile national registration card exercise has continued to spark debate among various political players, especially in the way it has been emphasized by the country's Home Affairs Ministry. Various warnings have been issued against those who do not qualify in this exercise. For instance, some officials in the country's largest opposition political party, the United Party for National Development, are condemning the method used and the punishment lying ahead towards the perpetrators during the issuance of the NRCs. However, the Young African Leaders Initiative YALI implores all political players to desist from politicizing everything.
We want to call on citizens also that getting national registration is not a political undertaking. It is a governance matter. What we mean by that is simple, is that, you see, it has got nothing to do with politics. Others just have to have that NRC for them to access governance services. At the time of a national crisis like the COVID crisis which we are facing, that is a time when people are united in trying to resolve the problem. This is not the time for politicking.
YALI President Andrew Ntewewe commends the exercise as he feels it will give fair and equal coverage to all qualified Zambians. Meanwhile, Mr. Ntewewe says he has noted several concerns alleging that some government officials are risking the nation of the COVID-19 or in the name of commissioning developmental projects. He further says COVID-19 is there to stay, just like HIV and other diseases, hence the need for development to continue as opposed to allowing the nation to die of hunger.
As the Young African Leaders Initiative, we wish to put it on record that we are happy that the Ministry of Home Affairs has begun embarking on the exercise to give the Zambian people NRCs. In particular, you want to understand that the Zambian law is very clear that once somebody has attained the age of 16, they are supposed to get their NRCs. But in particular, we are excited about this exercise because not only are we talking about the citizens getting their registration cards, but also we're looking at it in terms of preparation for the 2021 elections.
Reporting for Camnet Television in Lusaka, Zambia, Namwinga Mwinga.
We take another set of commercials. Do stay tuned as we have international and sports news. Don't go away.
To create a positive difference in people's lives, one must first understand the way people live. At Savenda, we're here for our community, our partners, and our future, as a nation and as a continent.
Back in 1997, we decided we were going to create this family journey into a bigger opportunity, and created a business called Savenda, which meant save nations to develop Africa.
It's always important to give back to the people. The government cannot do everything, but as business entities, we'll be able to reach a lot of people.
From our humble beginnings in the telecoms and mining sectors to our work in energy and development projects, we know how important it is to be true to our roots.
Our services have to be diversified so that we don't depend on one income stream. Back in the village, I was growing up hunting and doing everything that a village boy would like to do. When you're hunting, you don't depend on one trap, for example. You have to have many traps. So those survival skills brought into the business created opportunities that we learned from a young age that you can't survive with just one product. Savenda Group involves Savenda Management, which is a consulting, Savenda Express, which is a corporate branding company, Savenda Electric, which is a manufacturer of energy saving bulbs, Savenda General Insurance, which is a general insurance company, Savenda Fresh Produce, Cyber Africa, which is a center for just dealing with cyber security.
Now, Savenda is combining local knowledge with international expertise. It's time to be a part of Zambia's rising success and Africa's exciting future.
We are a gateway into Africa, and now we are praying with global companies who are coming to Zambia for opportunities and to look for companies that are homegrown, and we are proud to be one of those.
Thank you so much for staying with us. We continue with the news. In international news, there are more than 150 coronavirus vaccines in development around the world, but fewer than 10 have reached stage 3, the final phase before approval and eventual production and distribution. However, there are worries that the rush for a vaccine means that safety is being compromised. In other news, African Americans are returning home to escape racism. Black Americans are being invited to migrate to West African countries. Ghana and Senegal are encouraging them to settle, explore and invest. Many have shown interest, saying that they want to leave racism and division behind. Al Jazeera has more on these stories.
On average, it can cost more than $100 million and take years to put a vaccine through all 3 stages of development, with no guarantees of success. With time of the essence in the COVID-19 pandemic, many governments are picking up the costs, taking the financial risk to help speed up the process.
The government has basically taken the risk out of it for pharmaceutical companies. They'll pay for the mass production. They'll pay for the phase 3 trials. So therefore, the companies can move right along, and in fact, mass produce the vaccine while they're doing phase 3 trials, while they're still unsure whether the vaccine works and is safe, because the government's going to pay for it.
But is safety being sacrificed for speed? It was in 1955 when a laboratory rushed out more than 100,000 batches of the polio vaccine that mistakenly contained the polio virus. The batches were recalled, but not before they led to paralysis in dozens of people and the death of some children. The incident was a sad chapter in the history of vaccine manufacturing. Fast forward to today, and Pfizer is one of the pharmaceutical companies that has a COVID-19 vaccine in stage 3 human trials. There's no guarantee it will be successful. Nevertheless, the U.S. government has given the company hundreds of millions of dollars to speed up the development process.
In exchange, if the Pfizer vaccine turns out to be the one that works, the U.S. government will control the rights to the first 100 million doses. The White House is pushing ahead so fast, officials there claim they could have as much as 300 million doses available by the end of this year, in a program they're calling Operation Warp Speed. Some vaccine experts I spoke to said they hope that moving so fast doesn't lead to mishaps like what happened with the polio vaccine.
You don't actually want a vaccine that is developed at warp speed. I mean, really. You know, you want a vaccine that is developed as safely and carefully as any other vaccine that you're comfortable putting in yourself or your child.
For now, the race is on, balancing speed and safety for the elusive vaccine to end the COVID-19 pandemic. Gabriel Ozondo, Al Jazeera, New York.
I know a certain look, you know. Just know. I know what the person is thinking. Like,
go back to Africa.
That's black. The black guy just walked in.
In the insult, African Americans Jalisa George and Pape Souley heard a calling. They moved to Senegal's capital Dakar to find an escape from the racial tensions and the divisive politics at home in America.
People are like, oh, go back to Africa. Well, why are we so afraid to leave America?
Yeah. You don't gotta always look to the corner all the time. Like, there's like a sense of like, I don't know, welcoming that feels really warm, you know. Just like everyone looks at you and they're like, you look like me and I look like you, and it's okay.
Maybe this is home. Maybe this is the land where we come and possess and we make it just like what America was.
It's the year of return, an invitation from West African countries like Senegal and Ghana to Americans of African descent to settle and invest in the continent. Senegal's government says hundreds of American families have settled in the country thanks to the scheme.
There is an acceleration phase, maybe due to the specific situation in the US. I won't develop about that. But I think people feel they don't need to be divisive and they can come and find common ground where everybody can celebrate, its culture, himself.
The city is replacing street names and statues of French colonial figures with African personalities. While politicians argue over whose likeness should replace them, it seems young people have already made up their minds.
Graffitis are legal in Senegal, and while they're normally used to depict Muslim religious figures, look at this one. It's called Black Excellence. You can find Stokely Carmichael, Harriet Tubman, Nina Simone, Tommy Smith, even George Floyd, African Americans that have affected the history of not just the United States, but Africa as well. And so not only can you find them on the streets, they're also taught in schools as part of the history curriculum.
It's this that prompted 17-year-old Miriam's family to move from Atlanta so that she could attend one of the African-American schools of the city, where Papsule teaches art and representation.
Like, learning about Columbus in the U.S. and learning about Columbus here was completely different. Back in the U.S., they kind of praised him a bit, and they're like, he discovered America, all these great things. And when I came over here, my history teacher said how terrible this man was, and this was new to me. I was like, oh no.
In settling in West Africa, they have found a new home, discovered a side of themselves they had not seen before, too often overlooked. Nicholas Hawk, Al Jazeera, Dakar.
We now get into sports news. A veteran politician, William Harrington, has demanded an explanation from government through the Ministry of Youth and Sport and Child Development regarding the status of the stadium in Mongu that was promised by the late President Michael Chilufya-Sata in 2011. Harrington recalls the signing of a memorandum of understanding between the Football Association of Zambia FAZ and the Ministry of Sports concerning the upgrade and rehabilitation of stadiums countrywide, which he notes that has only been done in Lusaka and Copperbelt, leaving out Mongu.
It was announced recently that the Football Association of Zambia FAZ had signed an MOU with the Ministry of Sports on upgrading and rehabilitation of sports stadium around the country. And about 4 or 5 were named, except or with the exemption of Mongu, which has a very dilapidated sports stadium, which is in dire need of rehabilitation. And it was not explained why, or the reasons why Mongu Stadium had been left out of the MOU between Football Association of Zambia FAZ and the Ministry of Sports. But so in welcoming this development, I think we need an explanation from FAZ and the ministry on why this is so. Another thing I wanted to bring up and use the opportunity today is to find out from government, to get an explanation as to why to date, since late President Michael Sata came into governance, he promised to construct an ultra-modern football stadium in Mongu, and this has not happened. All that lies there on the outskirts of Mongu is a plaque which he inaugurated and laid the foundation stone for the construction of a football stadium. So there's a lot of talent in Western Province. There's a lot of youth in Western Province. We produced some footballers. The late Kalimukwa was from Western Province. So there's a lot of talent there, which can only improve if the youth are given proper football infrastructure.
That sports item brings us to the end of the news, but before we go, a look at the headlines once again. Zambia Medical Association spits venom over UTH patient doctor scandal. Community schools cry foul over TCZ teacher licensing measures. Petauke District Commissioner Valanesi Moyo differs with media bodies. In international news, COVID-19 vaccine raised safety concerns as countries rush for cure. In sports news, veteran soccer fan questions FAZ over stadia development in Western Province. We now look at the Camnet verse of the day, which is coming from the book of 1 John 4 verse 8, and it reads, "Whoever does not love has not come to know God, because God is love." This is Camnet TV, not just another channel. I have been your anchor, Liseli Kanyanga Mubanga. God bless.